All right, this is a Fox News alert. We continue our coverage of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor, former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, retired FBI Special Agent Maureen O'Connell. Nicole, start with you. Let me go to where I went to with Dan Bongino. In legitimate ransom cases, the kidnappers move fast. They establish leverage quickly. Communication begins within hours, not days, of the abduction. Proof of life is produced early and often, and this case has not followed the typical kidnapping model. Obviously, the FBI has that in mind.
Correct. This is definitely not following the typical pattern of what you would see. But again, everything in this case seems to be an anomaly. And that's why investigators, you've got to be on your toes and you've got to be ready to expect the unexpected. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to get creative and you've got to be aggressive and you've got to be always 10 steps ahead of the offenders. And it's difficult to do. But let's just take note of the fact that I just would like to draw attention right now to Savannah's video today. It was heart-wrenching. This was the first time that the plea was actually to the public, because the other videos were to the offender or offenders, asking for cooperation, telling them that they'll pay. This was the first time in an hour of desperation where she is coming to the public and she is pleading for help. And she is saying, please, we are desperate and we need your help. This is the time. Sean, there are people that watch your program. I know for a fact that, there have been other cases where the media helps the FBI solve investigations all of the time. Look at the horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk. People within the sound of the voice of the media heard what happened and someone turned in their own child. And I truly believe someone within the sound of the voice of the media, whether it's your network or somebody else's, they know who did this. Now is the time to do the right thing and to step it up. You can be anonymous. Call 1-800-CALL-FBI. They are desperate and they need help. And I think it's very important. Jonathan Hunt, he brought up a very good point. As of earlier this evening, TMZ said, according to the wallet information that we saw on the first ransom email, because remember, they were only receivers of the first email, not the second, but they said as of this moment in time, there had not been any deposit made. And that's important because, again, those transactions are publicly available on the blockchain if it is the same address that was in the second ransom email. It may not have been the same address in the second ransom email. And so we do not know what's happening. But one thing I can rest assured, FBI, they will not stop until this case is solved. They will not. They are not going to rest. Well, they are working tirelessly around the clock.
Maureen, let me go to the issue. The odds, 90% of the time, it's family members, and I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody. I want to be very clear about that. But also, we know that law enforcement may withhold or manipulate release of information to draw any suspect out by lulling them into a false sense of security. Could that possibly be happening in this case?
That could absolutely be happening because this is just one of those cases. Normally, there's one or two things that don't make sense, but this is a plethora of data points that most of them don't even seem to be connected to one another. And one thing that comes to mind is like this, what I call the absence of normalcy, where in a normal situation, we'd be able to pick up the vehicles or any vehicle, especially during a tight timeline in the middle of the night, and there weren't any. All the major streets around there, nothing. And then I thought about it and I thought, could it be that the person lives close enough where they could just take side streets all the way back to their residence? I mean, there's so many more questions than answers. I'm not even sure that that Nancy's home is in fact the place where this happened. And I'm not at all sure that this is a kidnapping.
Well, I mean, they did find the blood there. I mean, I would imagine that's probably the most logical place, but you may be right. Let me ask you, Greg Jarrett, based on what we know, the blood found on the porch, the Ring doorbell camera ripped out. We see they brought Celebrite into the sister's house again for another check. How do you interpret that?
Well, the ripped out camera at the doorbell, as well as the blood at the threshold of the front door, all indicates that force was used, to remove her, and that suggests a kidnapping. And, you know, Savannah's latest message, I agree with Nicole, issued this afternoon, made to the public, not to the kidnappers. And, you know, that suggests to me that she may have given up hope that law enforcement and the FBI would find her mom before the deadline passed. And it did a couple of hours ago. And indeed, she hasn't been found. We have no idea if the demanded ransom was actually paid. If it was, one of the messages from the suspected kidnappers said she'd be returned within 9 hours. So more of the same agonizing wait goes on. And of course, Sean, the opposite could be true. The family may have decided that since the purported abductors refused to produce any visual or verbal proof of life, then the Guthries couldn't be certain that the demands were real or some hideous hoax by fraudsters. You know, how do you know that the money would be going to the real kidnappers? You cannot know. What's troubling to me is the conspicuous silence from law enforcement, you know, a couple of written statements, but no press conferences, a blackout for a while now. And the last we heard is they had no suspects whatsoever, apparently no actionable lead. And, you know, granted, these cases are very hard to crack, but they may have run up against a brick wall when it comes to tracing the encrypted server, the disguised IP address that came from the same router. You know, all the surveillance videos, street cameras, cell phone activity, all of it has come up empty. And, you know, given today's technology, Sean, I find it hard to believe that there's no digital footprint that can be mined for evidence. But sadly, that appears to be the case. Yeah. So it's more of a waiting game now.
Exit question, yes or no? I don't like asking it, but I'm going to. Nancy Grace brought up, Nicole Parker, the idea that anyone and everyone that had any contact with Nancy Guthrie, now it's time for them all to step up for a polygraph. Good idea or bad idea?
Good idea, yes.
Let's get your Maureen.
It's probably already been done, yes.
Wow. Greg?
I don't know if it's been done or not. I would do limited polygraphs or group of friends, family members, and so forth.
All right. Thank you all. Let's hope for a safe return. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.